Yeah, and you can't hear it.
You still can.
I'm not even sure we have enough.
Ball bearers to make their way towards the verse.
This is right here. I invite those who would like to take a seat to please take a seat now. And pallbearers will take together by the coach. We want you to learn this together with us. You and Larry and the Gilberts. Mike. Good luck.
Oh my God, Nico.
I'll sit back. No, let's see. I have to sit back. Well, I'm not going to stay here that side.
Good.
Oh.
Yes. Okay, well, I'll save this seat for my.
Okay.
Don't sit on your water.
No, I've seen it.
For you dwell in the shelter of the Most High and abide in the protection of Shaddai. I say about my refuge and stronghold, my God in whom I trust. Lo tirapa hakalaila meis yatsun yoma. You will not fear the terror by night, for the arrows that fly by day. Ye pomitzadecha elyav uvavav mimenecha. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 close at hand, but death shall fall short of you. Rak be'einecha tabit v'shalamav v'sha'im tireh. You will see it with your eyes because you took Adonai as your haven. No harm will befall you. For God will order angels to guard you wherever you go. They will carry you in their hands, as God has said. I will deliver those who know my name. When they call on me, I will answer by being there, by rescuing and honoring, by satisfying and revealing my salvation.
Thank you, Lord. Ladies and gentlemen, if I can remind everyone to please turn off your cell phones for the service. I'd like you guys to come fill this area here, especially the shade. Rabbi, fill this area.
Although our tradition is to rush to fulfill a mitzvah, this one we have reluctance to do. And so we pause 7 times, 7 representing our tradition of completion of time in earthly space for our loved one. A woman of valor, she looked for wool and patterned fleece and glue and glitter and set her hand to them with a will that she was like a merchant fleet bringing her food from afar to share with those so fortunate to be seated at her table. She did rise while it was still night and supplied provisions for her household and friends and strangers. Her freezer was overflowing. She planted a vineyard by her own labors and flowers and succulents. She performed her task with vigor. More than one of us has said through our tears, she was a force. Her lamp never went out. She set her hand to the distaff. Her fingers worked the spindle, creating clothing and costumes and blankets for us all. She gave generously to the poor, her hand stretched out to those with all kinds of need. She was clothed with strength and creativity in her colors and with great shoes. Her mouth was full of wisdom, her tongue always with sincere teaching. She never ate the bread of idleness. Her children speak of their greatest love. Many women have done well, but you surpass them all. Grace is deceptive, beauty is illusory. It is for her teaching of the Lord that this woman is to be praised. We extol her for the fruit of her hands, for she long will be praised in the gates. And so we have come to praise and remember and mourn, and most important, to hold tight to each other as we are left to reflect and wonder, unable to understand God's plan as we contemplate the life and loss of a woman who lived with so much energy, a woman who was recognized for her sense of inquiry and determination, a woman who lived life and embraced those she deeply loved. We think of a woman whose values were deep and strong, and we know that we will go on by celebrating her love and sharing all of that caring. And with that recognition, begin our ceremony this morning. So I welcome you, Bruchim Habayim. It's good and important that you are all here. The Hebrew word for funeral, levaya, literally means to accompany or to escort. It's good and important that you're here, for we've come together to participate in a holy task, to accompany, to escort a beloved mother, grandmother, sister, and most dear friend, Linda Ellen Siegel-Richman, also known by her Hebrew name, Leah Bat Yaakov Halevi Berivka, on her next journey, her soul's journey toward union with the Holy One. Here today, we will honor Linda, who so generously shared her life with us and who passed from this earth on Friday morning, September 16th, the 20th day of the Hebrew month of Tishrei in the year 5782. It is in tribute to Linda that we gather, and for her life that we are so thankful, so thankful. And in addition to honoring Linda, I truly hope that our presence will bring a bit of comfort to her cherished family Our deepest sympathy to Ilana and her husband David, who have flown in from Jerusalem, to Mayrav, who is here from New York, who has been at Linda's side these past weeks, to Yoni, who has come from Minneapolis, to Rena in from Boston. We all embrace you with so much love. And to Linda's sister, Susan, and your husband, Red, although he's unable to be with us in Denver, our condolences and blessings for peace. Linda was the proudest grandmother to beautiful little Shaked, and I know that she's missing her Grammy. And Chelsea, we're so glad that you're here with us. And as we stand not far from his grave, we remember Linda's brother Joe, Uncle Joe, with many smiles. I acknowledge and extend sympathy also to Linda's extraordinary neighbors and friends who did so much to support her on Valencia Street, Mike and Sydney and Sylvie. When Mayrav thanked them a couple of days ago, they all responded, "Your mom was our mom. We loved your mom so much." They knew Linda well. So to pay tribute to Linda and to comfort those who mourn for her, to comfort all of us, for these reasons, we thank the Almighty and consecrate this time according to our tradition with the recitation from Tanakh, from prayer, with prayer and sharing of personal memories. The wisdom of our tradition informs us that all life is fleeting, but deep and loving caring is forever. And I share these words adapted from Ecclesiastes, Kohelet. Kol zaman ve'et l'kol chafetz tachat hashamayim. A season is set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a time to give and a time to receive, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to pause and a time to rush forward, a time to work and a time to rest, a time to speak and a time to be silent, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to lay seeds and a time to taste their fruit, a time to hurt and a time to be well, a time to grieve and a time to give comfort, a time for birthing and a time for dying. The time of mourning is a complicated time filled with many emotions and memories, bitter and sweet, sad and consoling. So now we'll continue our service with the recitation of a psalm and prayers, and thus linking Linda's life with the 3,000 plus year old tradition of the people Israel, which meant so much to her, and with the eternity of God. And I'm so glad to be able to call on Cantor Saul Rosenthal, who will chant the 23rd Psalm.
Mohor leDavid, Adonai ravi lo echsor. Binot asher yarbitzeini alem menuchot yinachalei. Nafshi shovei yarechein b'maglet tzedek l'man shemo. Gam ki helech b'geit salmavet lo yirara ki ata imati. Shivtecha mishanetecha hema yinachamuni. Taharach lefanai shulchan neged sorerai. Dishanta Hashem and Roshi, Kosi Revayaho. At Tova Chesed Yirrefuni, Kohal Yimechayai. Beshavti Beveit Adonai, Lehoref Yami.
So beautiful. Thank you.
A Psalm of David, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, giving me repose in green meadows, leading me beside quiet waters to revive my spirit, guiding me in right paths, for that is God's essence. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no harm, for you are with me, your rod and staff comfort me. You prepare a banquet for me in the presence of my foes. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and kindness will be my portion all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of Adonai, our Lord, forever. I think of Linda cooking, baking, sewing, creating all kinds of projects, but I really did not know well Linda's deep appreciation for the outdoors, for camping, hiking, and wildlife. It was most appropriate that a bee landed on my book and just sat here for a moment. There's a beautiful poem by Mary Oliver that recognizes this call of the wild that Linda heard. It's my pleasure to bring it now. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through a desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on, the sun and the pebbles of the rain. They move across the landscape over prairies and deep trees, mountains and rivers. The wild geese high in the clean blue air are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter if ever lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh but exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Crafting a legacy that is rich and deep, the work of her hands and of her heart brought her much satisfaction as Linda Siegel-Richman filled the lives of her loved ones and friends with sparkly color, delicious flavors, and great warmth. If I were nearly as creative and energetic a woman as Linda was, I would have baked last night, and we all would be enjoying a slice of her amazing chocolate Kahlua cake here right now. But my task was to compose her eulogy. And so I'll start with a bit of Linda's life story. Linda's parents were Olga and Jonas Siegel, both being adventurous young people. Olga and Jonas had met working for the banana company in Venezuela. The couple returned to the US, to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to be closer to Jonas's family and friends. As they welcomed Susan and then Linda, followed by Joe. Jonas was an accountant. Olga was a very busy mom who taught preschool at their temple. When the children were older, she returned to nursing, the matriarch in a family of medical professionals. The family was close-knit. They especially enjoyed driving trips, and visiting relatives was a priority. Linda attended Jewish camps, which greatly influenced her love for Judaism. She was a camper at Camp Coots, then a counselor and head of staff at Camp Herzl in Wisconsin. It was at summer camp too that Linda acquired one of her first rabbits, bringing home a surprise to her parents. This was not a small bunny-like Snowball, whom some of you might have known, but a giant wild rabbit, I was told. Graduating from Memorial High in Tulsa, Linda first attended Grinnell, and then it transferred to the University of Oklahoma. a significant decision, for it was at an OU Hillel Yom Ha'atzmaut, Israel Independence Day barbecue, that she met David Richman, a rising young law clerk. The two became a couple, and after graduation moved to Denver for David to take a position at a law firm and Linda to enter a master's program in Jewish education at the University of Denver. After graduation, Linda held a variety of teaching positions in Jewish schools in the community. I first met Linda when she taught the Kohelet preschool almost 45 years ago. I delicately shared my memory with her children yesterday. Could I say that Linda was a hippie at the time? A serious Jewish hippie? Long hair, alternative type clothes. Yes, they said, we knew that she had been a free spirit, was a free spirit. Linda and David loved all the outdoor activities available in Colorado and chose to marry in August 1979 in Pine Junction. Elana, Meirav, Yonatan, and Rena were born. And Linda shared her love for nature as the young family camped, hiked, explored in the mountains. Her children have great memories of annual summer trips to national parks. Linda was a natural, gifted teacher, and all the time that they spent in nature provided teachable moments. Yoni remembers a tarantula that Linda very carefully had the children examine. And also there were frogs, crawdads, even bats to observe. Linda liked creepy crawlers. And Linda supplemented these family opportunities with science camps for the kids every summer, nature, outdoor experiences that her children appreciate to this day. They remain keen observers of the natural world inherited from their mother. We all will remember Linda's extensive and important contribution to Jewish education in our community. She was principal of the religious school at the Hebrew Education Alliance, where our own children benefited from Linda's talents. Linda saw the importance of bringing joy to all Jewish learning. Hebrew school was creative and fun. And I look at Shira, who is one of Linda's teachers, my children's teachers. You made it creative and fun as Linda instructed. Working with Rabbi Daniel Goldberger, Zichrono Livracha, blessed memory, during those productive years was one of the highlights of Linda's career. She later worked at the Colorado Agency for Jewish Education, was director of the Denver Institute for Jewish Studies, the adult program. Linda was chosen as a National Melton Fellow in 1995, leading to the family's year-long stay in Jerusalem and their devotion to Israel. Linda studied chaplaincy and became a certified hospital chaplain. Leading the Religious Advisory Committee at the Donor Alliance, Linda promoted organ donation to the Jewish community and beyond. Linda taught at the Denver Jewish Day School. More recently, while at Road of Shalom, the Shabbat group that Linda formed enabled singles and couples to gather at her elegant Shabbat table regularly on Friday evenings. She was always active in the community, continuing to provide Jewish learning and celebrate the beauty of our tradition with old and new friends. These last several years, Linda's health was a difficult challenge for her and for the family. An active, creative woman who so enjoyed being busy, it was frustrating for her to be encumbered by illness. We know that your mother would want you only to remember her accomplishments, her energy, her style, the love of our Jewish tradition, the delicious special meals, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more details about those meals this week, the deep appreciation of nature that she shared with you, all the projects, the craft projects that she provided for you.
She would want you always to be inspired by her values. She would want us to think of how she loved you and how that love will remain with you for the rest of your lives. But more important than a rabbi's chesed, a rabbi's eulogy, even though that rabbi considered Linda like family, at a time like this, the reflections of the ones who knew Linda best are so important. So first, I'd like to call on David Richman to share some memories.
Great.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you all for being here. And we're very moved by the people who came so far to be here from New York, from Houston. We went from France yesterday. We say that the lives of a person touches many other lives. It's a common saying. Usually we talk about touching the lives of that person's peers. In Linda's case, as Sarah alluded to, I think mostly what you did is touch the lives of children. The many children she taught, at the many places she taught, and I started to make a list. The Nechavara, the first place she taught here, before the basement at Sarah's, hired by Bobby and the late Ed Tobin. Kohelet in Sarah's basement. Beth Evergreen, up in the mountains. Beth Shalom in Littleton. The JCC at Education Center. And of course at Ramah, or Herzl actually. And then finally as principal at the Alliance for those many years with Rabbi Glover. She touched the lives of Jewish children. And while Sarah said she made it fun, I also think she's made it lasting. And I have to think that part of her legacy is the many Jewish children who are out there now who are all adults and maybe have their own children, who are practicing Judaism in a serious way, in part due to Linda. There's probably also those that are not practicing Judaism, also due to Linda. We won't dwell on that. That was part of her legacy. I also think the second part of her legacy comes from this. As Sarah said, her mother was a nurse. Linda's sister is a nurse. Linda, I think, always wanted to be a doctor. As we say, she wasn't a doctor, but she played one on TV. She was so fascinated with medical stuff. And lo and behold, what's happened? She now has 4 children, all medical professionals. Ivana, Mirab, and Yodi, and Rena are all devoted to the medical profession. There's no lawyers in our family. And I think that her legacy has to be very much her 4 children. Successful, well-accomplished children in the medical field. And it's all due to Linda. I take no credit for it. I didn't teach them anything except maybe how to hit a baseball. So I think the memory of Linda should be that there's Jewish children out there still being touched by her. There's still her children who are still now in the profession, maybe because of her. And Shaketa, we don't know if she's going to end up being the first. There's only 4. And to the extent that Linda's physical presence is no longer with us, and her soul may be bound up with Hashem, her spiritual presence lives out of those children and her own children. Thank you.
Thank you for your beautiful words. Yes, yes, yes.
I'm pleased to be able to call on Ilana now, who brings her memories and reflections, representing her sisters and brother too.
I'm the dedicated speaker for kids. My mother, Eva, didn't know how to do anything small. When she decided to do something, she always put her whole heart and soul into it. For our birthdays, we always had 4 birthday parties. We had one at school, one with our family, one with our friends, and of course, a kiddush at shul. Who cooked all of the food for the kiddush and all the cakes? Ima, of course. When we needed to buy something new, she would come home with a large assortment of items. Sometimes it was even annoying. But this was one of the ways she showed her love for us, and it continued into our adult life. When we came home from college, after college, last year, even now, there's clothes for Shaked when she's 8 years old. There would be a pile of clothes that she's been collecting for us for months. Did we ask for it? No. Did it even fit? Some days she was usually spot on in size and style. We certainly didn't need it. The same was true of many of others Ima's qualities and values. Ima instilled and nurtured independence in her 4 children from a very early age. The minute we complained that we didn't like the lunch that she made for us, which was usually the 3rd week of kindergarten, we had to help her make our own lunches. We were taught to do our own laundry. Growing up, every kid was responsible for making dinner 1 night a week. When this tradition started, Yoni and Rena were quite young. So my mother, of course, helped them, probably doing most of the work herself. But it was important for her that we learned useful life skills and gained confidence and independence. Ima was a Jewish educator through and through, and this was prevalent in many aspects of her life. I don't think that I was ever fully aware that she was always using the moment to teach us. I'm not sure if she ever realized how much it influenced our life. On days off from school, Ima always had an amazing adventure or project planned. She loved crafts. She would take us to catch tadpoles and crawdads in Lowell ponds. Then we would bring the tadpoles home and watch them turn into frogs. I don't even remember what we did with the frogs after they were frogs. Ima loved the outdoors, and she made sure that we continued to love it too. She sent us to amazing summer programs at Gove Elementary School and Science Discovery Camp. Ima loved flowers and gardening. Growing up, we had a huge vegetable garden, and we would go out there in the evenings and pick food for dinner for the salad. And Ima always planted Indian corn in stalks, so we would use it as stock for our sukkah in the fall. My mother apparently even ordered bulbs from her hospital bed a few days ago, and they arrived in the mail yesterday. One of Ima's favorite quotes was, "There's always room for one more." She embodied to the fullest extent the value of Hachnasat Orchim. Maybe sometimes she even overdid it. When there was someone new in the community, or new immigrants from Russia, or a new family at shul, she made sure to invite them over for a Shabbat meal. The meals at our house were sometimes 21, 22, 25 people. That is why we have such a huge dining room table. And then when the meal was over, God forbid anybody help her clean up, because she would say, "I have a system." Ima had a strong sense of importance of community. She was practically her own chesed club, making meals for people, delivering flowers on Erev Chag. Again, something she has instilled in us. When someone is sick, the first thing I always ask them is, "When can I bring a meal over for you?" This connects to her love of Judaism and Israel. Without Ima's brave and crazy idea to go to Israel on sabbatical in 1995, I doubt that I would be sitting here with my beautiful family and be the person that I am. Ima knew that a strong foundation of a Jewish day school, youth group, and camp would shape us into the lovers of Judaism and Israel that we all are today. And I contribute my Aliyah success to both of these values. I'm sure that most of you remember the story of Ima being arrested at the Kotel. She was in Israel for the summer, visiting me and studying at the conservative yeshiva. And at that point, she was teaching and volunteering at Herzl Day School for the 2nd grade. Before she left for Israel, she asked all the students if they wanted to write notes, and she would bring them and put them in the Kotel. She took the notes and went directly to the old city after studying at the yeshiva that day. And she always wore a kippah when she studied Jewish things. Well, she forgot to take the kippah off. She didn't even remember she had it on. She walked into the Kotel Plaza, and the guards there stopped her and said, "You can't go into the Kotel Plaza with a kippah, you're a woman." And my mom said, "What?" She put her hand up and she said, "I have a kippah." And then she said, "Well, I'm not taking this kippah off. You gotta be kidding me." She almost was arrested by going into the Kotel Plaza, but she insisted, and she went in, and she was in the news for that too. Yes. We have an endless number of stories and memories that we could share, but I was told that I have to keep it short. Ima, as Sarah said, you were a force of life. You were full of boundless energy and creativity. You wanted us to learn life's skills and always tried to put a fun twist on it. You taught us to sew by having us choose patterns for our own perm costumes. You were loved by many. You inspired so many people. And I wish that you could be here today to see everyone who is standing here and loves you. Your legacy is us. May Rob, Yodi, Rita, and myself, your four kind, generous, loving children, if I do say so myself, and your granddaughter, Shakira. May we continue to carry on and teach the values, lessons, morals, and fun times that we have. You are already sorely missed, and we love you more than we could ever let you know.
Lana, so beautiful, so beautiful. And I know that your mom is beaming with pride. And I'd almost forgotten how Linda just about single-handedly chaired the integration of the new Russian immigrants into our community. I believe that was in the early 90s, maybe. Linda was open and giving and so important. Burial is the last physical act that we can do for our loved ones. It is an act referred to as Chesed Shel Emet, an act of true, pure compassion and honor, for the deceased can in no way repay this kindness in return. The burial is difficult, but will help start the mourners on the way to acceptance and reconciliation. It's my honor to call upon Rabbi Rachel Kobrin, Linda's congregational rabbi at Rodef Shalom, who will explain more about.
So I was reminded of something just before we started this ceremony. I was talking to Heather, and we remembered how your mom gave kids yads for their b'nai mitzvah. She wanted to give them a yad so that they could continue to bring Torah to life when they leaned. So the act of burial we do ourselves with our hands as well. Whether taking earth in our hands and handfuls of 3, connecting us forever to Linda. We're taught in her tradition that when we do something 3 times, we have a connection that can't be severed. With our hands or with the shovel. If you choose to use the shovel, the tradition is to turn it backwards and to use the first time that we do it to use it backwards and then to shift it around and use it the front way for the next 2. The reason we do this is similar to what Sarah explained about coming in and stopping 7 times. While we know that we need to do this, this is not a normal action. This is something we do with reservation and we do with deep sadness. The one other piece is that the tradition is, if using a shovel, to put it back directly into the earth so that we don't, we're all feeling grief. The tradition is that we keep that grief and simply pass it on. The one final piece I just want to share is that when we cover the casket with earth, I like to think about this as tucking in a child at night. When we say goodnight to our children, we cover them in a blanket or in a sheet as a way of making sure they feel secure and held. And so we do this as well for Linda today. This is the mitzvah, the greatest mitzvah we're taught because it's one that she can never thank us for. So we'll invite Linda's children and Linda's family to come first and to begin after the casket is lowered, and I'll, Rabbi Sarah will explain.
Thank you, Rabbi Copeland. Thank you. Thank you. So the casket is lowered now. Thank you so much, Mr. Siegel and your staff. And then all of us here are invited to take a turn. We can form a line on that side and a line on this side. And I invite you all to participate. Tradition comes from the Tanakh. Also, I would imagine but the tradition has come down. So this to those who see choose to wear them for 7 days. So for a child, feel the tear. And we say the blessings.
No, but I was okay with that. I knew that. Traveling off. It was so hard. We were in Vermont. I wanted, we were trying to get to Arizona. It wasn't time. But my husband, you know, I don't have to. I can remember. Once you see that, that was wonderful. I was telling my husband, I'm like, she's gonna keep on my mother's Christmas one. I must be, or I'm at least her favorite. I asked him, like recently was non-Jewish. And he thought about it. You are the chosen one.
Hey, let me introduce you to my daughter. This is
Hi.
Susie. She's my
Susan,
oldest.
I'm Susan, Linda's sister.
You're
Right.
just like. So when
They were talking about all the things you guys growing up, going to Jewish camp. And I remember distinctly telling me that even as, you know, a teenager, she went to one of these camps and she had not been bought mitzvah. That's where she found her religion. Yes, and she came back and she informed her parents that she'd been bought mitzvah.
Gentlemen, if I can have you reconvene so we can conclude the service.
Oh, yeah, that's where she found religion. My mother and I discussed this often. Well, your mother, she's a nonstop little box. Every time your parents would come to visit, she'd always bring little doodad gifts, and she'd give me one too. And she'd say, "I tell you, don't have to do that." I'll tell you what we Jews like to say. That's right.
I call on Cantor Snow Rosenthal once again to chant the traditional prayer that Linda Siegel-Richman may rest in peace. If you're comfortable doing so, although you just sat down, please rise for Hail Molly.
Rachamim, Shotein Bameron, Ametzei Menucha Nefona, Takat Kanfei HaShekhinah, B'mahalot Kedoshim, U'Tehadrim, Kesawarakia, Kesawarakia, Mazir. Et Nishmat Leah Bat Yaakov Halevi Berivka Shalachva Leolama Began Eden Tehei Menuchata Anna Abal Haravamim Astire Abeseter Kinafecha Leolamim Vetitzror Bitzror Achayim Et Nishmata Adonai Unachalata Betahanuha Bishalom Manishkava Benomar Benomar Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Leah, Bat Yaakov Halevi Berivka, has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest forever in peace. And let us say, Amen.
Except for the family. Death is not an ending, but a time of a new relationship. In a synagogue, every Kaddish prayer that is said marks a transition point in the worship service. The mourner's Kaddish at the cemetery also marks a transition transition of a life. For the first time, I invite Linda's family to stand in the corners. Gadal, Gadash. Amen. May God's great name grow exalted and sanctified in the world that Adonai created. May God reign forever. May God's great name be blessed forever and ever. Blessed, praised, glorified, exalted, extolled, mighty, upraised, and lauded be the name of the Holy One. Beyond any blessing and song, praise and consolation that are uttered in this world. May there be abundant peace from heaven and light bestowed upon us, upon all Israel and all who dwell on earth. May the Lord, may Adonai who makes peace in the heights, make peace for us, and we all respect.
Amen.
Eternal God, let your presence rest upon us as we give thanks for Linda's life and love, as she taught us to learn and love, to live with devotion, imagination, ingenuity, and craftiness. We thank you for the days and years that you gave to her. May her memory live long among us and be a source of blessing and strength, especially for Ilana, Mayra, Yoni, Rena, and Susan. I recognize that these upcoming weeks, as we prepare for and observe the high holy days, will be an especially tough time. You may well feel your loss even more deeply when someone is missing at a special place, for Rosh Hashanah is a time for remembrance. The scales are one of the symbols of the season. The Rambam Maimonides wrote that one should see the world and see herself as a scale with an equal balance of good and evil. And when an individual does one good deed, the scale is tipped to the good, and she and the world are saved. We will be remembering all the good that Linda brought to our world, all the caring and compassion, the tipping she provided for us. An insightful poet wrote imaginary words of his deceased loved ones: to the living I am gone, to the sorrowful I will never return, to the angry I was cheated, but to the happy I am at peace, and to the faithful I have never left. I cannot be seen, but I can be heard. So as you stand upon a mountaintop, gazing at a beautiful view, remember me. As you look in awe at a mighty forest and its grand majesty, remember me. As you look upon the wings or the legs of a creepy crawly, remember me. And as you admire a flower, the simplicity of its petals, remember me. Remember me in your heart, your thoughts, and your memories of the times we loved, the times we cried, the times we fought, the times we laughed. For if you always think of me, I will